I love that used to be the argument. Football, it's just Sundays
Sunday.
and Monday night.
Right.
And Saturday, because we really like college.
Yeah.
And the Thursday night game and the college Friday night game. And sometimes there's a Tuesday. And Wednesday's on this holiday. It's like, okay, fine, never mind. It's always
every day.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or therapy. Our full disclaimer can be found in the show notes. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, everyone, to the Man Up Together podcast. My name is Alex Peskin, and I'm here with my lifelong friend and co-host, Bobby Jacobs. Bobby, we've got something good to talk about today before we get started. I know we try and think of things to banter about, but this one was a no-brainer here.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to set the stage, and we're gonna get into this a little bit. So my wife goes to get a pedicure yesterday to a place that she, I think, generally goes.
Sure.
And she started texting us while she was there.
It was a live stream.
Yeah.
The pedicure. It was pretty awesome.
She was sitting, I guess, close enough to listen to a conversation two men were having who were also getting pedicures.
Older men. And I think she said they were
50s.
In their 50s, if not older. Yep.
Yeah. And she said she was loving it because the first guy was telling another guy, he tried to convince him to get his wife's initials painted into his toenails, which is hilarious and great. And I think about men getting manicures and pedicures. I don't think it's an uncommon thing that happens, but from what I understand, it's more about like taking care of the
like a health of your nails
and
versus
maybe
how
even
it looks.
sometimes like some clear coat of something on it, not your wife's initials. But what got even better is she heard him talking about the colors he was going to get because he was going to the beach with his grandkids. So he was getting blue for the water and yellow for the sand or something.
Yep. I think what I loved about it too, I think I remember your wife saying, these men didn't know each other.
Yeah.
These were strangers that had struck up a conversation.
Yeah. He's like, I'm about to get a real pedicure here. I could maybe try to tell this guy to do something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just the continued conversation that these two men had struck up, we learned about one of their backgrounds. He was in the Navy and
a pilot, right?
Yeah. And he would there was something about Kuwait. So assumedly he had been involved in the first Gulf War and then in 1990 and 1991. What I think was so cool about this whole progression was, one, thank you to your wife for giving us this nugget. These were men that were striking up, at least at the onset, this casual friendship. So we're going to talk about friendship in this episode is going to be the topic that we're going to go over. But these men that had just struck up this conversation were comfortable enough to talk to each other. And I wondered, did that comfort come from a place of discomfort to start, right?
Good strategy, though.
Absolutely.
Right. Open up.
And I love the fact that there were two men that were even there getting a pedicure. So I've gotten a pedicure once, and it was because my daughter asked me to go with her for her birthday.
Nice.
And my initial thought was I'm going to go and, like you said, I'm going to get my feet cleaned. I'm not a feet guy, so I'm going to get my feet cleaned and whatever. And then we're sitting there and my daughter goes, well, what color are you thinking? And I was like,
I didn't say clear.
I didn't think that was part of it. So I left with colorful toenails. I've had my daughters paint my toenails on a regular occasion because I don't care. A couple of weeks ago, I was on a work trip and I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I went to the bathroom and I looked down, and in my half sleeping, I had forgotten my nails were painted. And I looked down and I go to the bathroom like, oh, wow, my toenails. So
I love that.
I was kind of wondering whose feet those were. I don't know. Have you got your nails painted before?
So I've never gotten a pedicure, but the girls have several times painted, and sometimes they're like, it's dad, let's do blue or green. And sometimes they're like pink, purple,
all the way,
rainbow, the whole thing, sparkles, all of it. And whatever they want to do, I'm okay with that because that's kind of the point.
I love that.
But I've never gotten a professional pedicure before.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who served in the military. And if we're going to generalize and overgeneralize, probably sometimes that's someone who stereotypically thinks you're supposed to be manly. And he's especially back in the 90s. And he's also moved on to, if I'm a grandfather, I'm going to get my toenails painted just like they get
I'm
their
getting ready for the beach.
Painted.
Exactly.
I would much prefer them recognizing it and appreciating and loving it over what other men not judging me for my toenails,
Exactly.
I guess. And
Exactly.
so real men get pedicures. There
That's
we
it.
go.
Real men get pedicures. Maybe should we get a t-shirt? Real men get pedicures.
I'll have to work on it. I'll have to actually get one. Real men get pedicures.
I love it. No, I think it was really cool. I appreciate your wife for pointing it out. And like I said, live messaging us.
Oh, and she also shared the podcast with them after because you kept saying, go talk to them, go talk to them.
I thought we should give them a sticker. I was really wishing your wife had one of our stickers.
Should have her walk around with stickers. But
they looked it up. So
Yeah,
appreciate
they looked it up.
If you guys are listening, first off, great job on the pedicures. I'm sure they look wonderful.
Yeah.
Otherwise, let us know if you're listening.
Yeah,
We want to hear it.
I really want to. If you're listening and you're comfortable, I would love if you reached out because we would love to have you on this podcast and to do a little chatting and interview or something like that. So if you want to email us questions at manuptogetherpodcast.com. If you have Instagram, you can find us, Man Up Together Podcast. You can comment on our YouTube feed for this, but if you're listening, we would love if you reached out to us and tried to find us. We'd love to talk to you. It would be really cool.
Yeah. Appreciate you taking the time to be vulnerable with a stranger in public getting a pedicure. I mean, that's awesome.
Thank you for being a positive male figure for what masculinity can, and I want to say should look like these days for the people around you, other men, also your children and grandchildren, whether they're male or female. This is what we should be learning to expect from the men in our lives and who will be in our lives in the future. And so, way to go, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's dive into some deeper conversation about friendship today. I think a great depiction of a very interesting form of friendship is going to be a good one for
Why do men like this
today. So for Why Do Men Like This today, we're going to talk about why do men like Jackass?
Why do men like Jackass?
And so this is on the heels of the final Jackass installment. I think they're saying the movie that came out is the last one.
We've had the last Jackass every time there's been a Jackass.
I think we might be at an age where we could trust them here, though. Their age.
They are at an age.
They're at an age where we could probably trust them, but who knows? But it is some form of the last.
Absolutely.
What is your history with Jackass, and why do you maybe like?
Yeah. So I wasn't allowed to watch Jackass initially when it first came out. I was a little young, did not listen to my parents, watched Jackass, thought it was absolutely hysterical.
That's funny. We talked about things we weren't allowed to
and Jackass
watch
didn't
in
come
the
up
past,
there,
and that I didn't even think of that being one from like one of them for me. If it was Rocco's Modern Life, because my dad was like, I don't want to see that show, but Jackass was totally fine. He was never like, no, this thing where guys give you horrible ideas, you shouldn't watch. No, he probably liked it.
There are absolutely certain, I guess, gags, or I don't even know what you want to call them, like segments of Jackass that have stuck with me that I will remember.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I will remember forever. I mean, whether it's Steve-O fishing for sharks by putting like a shark hook through his own mouth and like jumping into the ocean.
Also, do you remember when he stuffed raw chicken into his underwear and climbed a rope over alligators?
Yep.
That feels very similar to that one. Oh my God, yeah, but he put the hook through his cheek.
Yeah.
Cheek.
There are so many. I mean, so I watched, I don't remember which Jackass it was, but it was one where they were supposed to have started filming and then COVID started. And then once they were allowed to start filming again, they almost filmed like a documentary of filming Jackass, which in and of itself is essentially a documentary. But they were talking about what it took to actually get Jackass off the ground again during the COVID time. And it was one of the things that I continued to kind of go back to was the relationship that all of these guys had with each other. And it's not just men. There was women that were put in there. I think initially it was a giant group of men, and then women were thrown into the mix as well. There was the core group, and I don't know all of their names, but Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O and Wee Man. These people all have actual names as well, but they've kind of stuck together.
There you go. At least.
and I think what's been so crazy to me is a couple of things. Is one, they were not easy on each other by any stretch of the imagination. They all stuck together, right? I think one of the gags that I continue to go back to that I think is just hysterical because it's one that doesn't go away quickly was during one of the filmings where somebody had a hair buzz cutter and they would just walk up behind someone in the middle of something and just buzz a giant strip of hair.
I think that was like a continuous thing through one of the movies.
Probably.
Like they just kept doing it.
But Jackass to me is like, why do men like Jackass? Why do I like Jackass? I think it's hysterical. I'm
Yeah.
gonna just sit.
But why?
Plant my
So
flag.
why? So there are things where they're picking on each other and buzzing each other's hair off, not consensually. There are things where they're
Eating
doing
things.
right. There's things where they're doing things that feel risky, eating things that make them sick. Also, going to didn't they like poop in a toilet store where it wasn't connected to plumbing once? Like
Yep.
there's things that they're doing in public that aren't necessarily dangerous but are sensational. And then they're doing things that are dangerous or like just going to get you, sticking a hook through your cheek. Like, you know, immediately it's going to
hurt.
And then you're going to jump into the ocean and possibly get hurt, or all of the other physical things that, why do we like that?
So I think it goes back a little bit. We've had some of these other conversations, like why do men like ribbing on each other? Why do men like hurting themselves? And we've had the conversations about hitting each other with tennis balls and tennis racket, right? I mean, I think part of it is like proving to yourself you could be part of the group. Part of it's like, how can I one up the people around me so that I can feel energized or excited or what have you. Now, I don't
What
want
about us watching it? Why?
I think there's something.
And I have to tell, like, I loved Jackass.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying why
For
other
sure.
people like this. I loved Jackass.
I think part of it is like, we all were like, well, what if we did this and they're actually doing it, right? Like
they're living vicariously.
Right, like they're taking the most ridiculous bullshit things out of our brains and being like, no, let's do this. There's one. Oh, we talked about the bull thing, right?
Yeah.
I remember there's one where they're on this like 5 or 10 person seesaw. Remember? And they let a bull out and the bull starts running around and you have to jump, but like you're also trying to get the other person hit. Like, again, I think there's still something about like all of the things that we've talked about play into Jackass.
That's interesting, because one of the things I think it would be bad is because this is giving people ideas.
Sure.
But I would say you're kind of calling it something that's good, where no matter what ideas you have, you're like, I don't have to do it. I saw it on Jackass.
Someone else will do that.
We don't have to worry about it.
I do appreciate they had their disclaimer of like, don't do what we're doing, but also like they went even further. We're like, don't send us videos. We won't even open that, right? Like, and they made it very clear. Like, I don't care.
They're
like
trying to be
how
as
funny
responsible as possible in an extremely irresponsible activity.
Exactly.
And please do not feel inspired to do anything from this.
We are not role models.
One of the ones that I guess feels like it was maybe the most accessible. I'm glad to say I have not actually tried it, but I loved it. It was just so simple, where they would get in shopping carts.
Oh my God.
And go straight at each other. I think maybe shopping cart jousting or something, and like over curbs, so they would like fly out and hit cars and things like that. Just like,
I am shocked that I know that there were significant injuries throughout Jackass.
I'm sure many concussions.
I'm surprised there weren't worse. I'm just going to be real honest there. Like it just feels like there should have been worse injuries that came from the things they did.
But so why do we like it? I love this. There's like living vicariously, and I think it just gets to like testosterone flowing if you're seeing these crazy things. Also, why is it good? Because it, in a way, is depicting male friendship.
Absolutely.
I love that. And so the reason we thought of this in particular this time too, and shout out to a client of mine who shared an article with me from the New Yorker. We read an article. It was by Katie Waldman, called Only Connect and the Art of Bromance.
Yeah, the lost art of the bromance.
Yeah. And she mentioned Jackass as a depiction of male friendship.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about the article and some other things later today. But I love that. I love that it was kind of centered around this thing that you could think of a lot of, why is this maybe not a good thing?
Sure.
And she's like, no, I'm centering it on why is it a good thing? Why is it something that we're losing in our society? Because this is men showing friendship and wanting to continuously connect and hold on to their relationships with each other for long periods of time and do crazy things during it.
Well, and I think too, as Jackass has continued, the group obviously has gone through life's challenges. And I remember, Bam Margera if I'm sure I said his name incorrectly, he had some issues, substance abuse challenges.
Mm.
And I know that the group rallied around and was able to be there for him and support him. And there's been deaths and there's been lots of challenges within that group.
Right. So they're doing
yeah.
these crazy things and they're putting themselves in danger and picking on each other
Yeah.
and all of this. But it sounds to me like when the cameras go off, they maintain a friendship.
Absolutely.
And they're there for each other. And I guess even when the cameras are on, they're doing vulnerable
Right.
things. They're putting themselves in situations where you might not want to be seen by others, but
Right.
they're being brave in that way.
I mean, you could
well.
absolutely like turn the cameras off and these guys could hate each other because they're just like,
Right.
you did what to me? Like,
Yeah.
can't imagine. But
the pain
there's
that comes with
trust.
this
There's trust.
means they probably like each other enough to
Yeah.
keep doing it.
All right. Do you have a favorite? I know we kind of talked about a couple of things they've done. Do you have a favorite one that sticks out for you?
I don't know. I just remember watching and like laughing and crying and like my abs hurting
Yeah.
and my face muscles hurting. But the shopping cart was a good one. I liked some of the things they did with fireworks. They got very creative there. Maybe
Always.
He put a leech on his eyeball once.
I think one of the ones that I love the most, so coming from a guy who's got a couple of tattoos, they went on like a dune buggy ride or something, and they had the tattoo artist like do a tattoo on this dune buggy as they're driving
banging around.
through like the wilderness or whatever. And then they kept them, which I think was just obviously
I guess you have to keep
awesome.
it.
So there's that one, and then the only other one that I really just distinctly remember, there was one where they had Wee Man and then a couple of the other guys, they dressed up as elephants and they walked around like with like tail and a trunk or whatever, and one of the guys was like shooting these giant rubber balls to go elephant hunting with them. I don't know why, but I laughed so hard watching these guys get
I
shot
don't even
with
know why
giant
either.
rubber balls. So anyway, Jackass is great.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things to learn, again, not from what you should be doing in your free time.
That's the why is this maybe not a good thing?
But there's a lot of things to learn, I think, about friendship and trust and that, for lack of a better term in the article, bromance, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of these guys would definitely consider their friendship a bromance for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good stuff. All right. I haven't seen the new movie. I think it's
Nope.
out, right?
I think we'll have to watch it.
Yeah, but maybe we should watch our one last hurrah
There you
here
go.
for Jackass. Very nice. All right, so we're gonna move into the rest of the episode here and kind of leverage what we started with. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the things we found in the article. But the three sections we're going to go through today are some trends that were mentioned in the article, and as well as talking a little bit about what we consider a friendship to be.
Yep.
We'll then talk about how male friendship is depicted in society and how that influences us and what it tells us about some things that are true and maybe aren't true. And then in the last section, I'd love to just go through some things that we think are activities that men commonly partake in that may help you find friends, and some that we do that maybe don't help us find friends, and kind of understand that from that lens a little bit.
I love it. Let's do it.
Sounds good. All right. So first thing we're going to talk about here, what is a friend and some of the trends. So let's start with what is a friend. What are we kind of considering as a friend? Is there a certain depth you have to get to or anything like that?
I think at base level, it's an easy question. But then when you actually think about it, it's like, no, this is a really hard question.
Yeah.
It's a really deep question. So for me, a friend is a person you can count on to be there for you when you need them. And I think that's where that definition maybe expands, right? Because what does that look like? What does being there for someone look like? What is needing somebody look like? You know, it's like, hey, I just need to borrow your truck. Or, hey, I need you to be there for me because my dad died and I'm falling apart. Like those are both parts of the same definition. And I think that's where it gets hard. And I think it's also important, at least for me, to understand that not all friendships are the same. My friendship with you is at a very deep level. My friendship with other people that I've maybe known for a very long period of time, I don't have that same exact connection with.
Yeah.
Does that mean they're not as good of a friend, or does that mean that they're filling a different need for friendship? And I don't know maybe how to reconcile that. I don't know. What's a friend for you?
Right. So I like all the ways you're talking about it. I think I just want to expand it in one way.
Yeah.
And say even a more accessible, minor version of a friend, I would love to consider in this as well, where you're saying, can I ask you to borrow your truck Thank you, by the way, for helping me out with your truck
Done.
later this week. Also, can I ask you to be there for me when someone dies in
Right.
my life? I think even less than can I borrow your truck is can I know that I'm going to see you at maybe a regular interval or even irregular interval, and I can rely on that, and it can just make me feel good to know you're going to be there.
Right.
Even if we never, like, I'm thinking about engaging in an activity,
Okay.
whether it's something that's a sport that you only see that person when you're on the same team and playing the sport, but you see them once to twice a week for a 3-month period every year, or something you go to every Thursday and you only see them then. That I think there's a value to that as well.
Yeah.
And often that's where people develop deeper friendships, where you can turn that into something where you can borrow someone's truck, or you can say, hey, let's go hang out outside of this activity. But I think there is still value to the people that you only do that with, because there's a consistency to that. I know this is going to be a moment where I'm not lonely, where I'm not alone, and I have people around me who I feel good about being around.
Yeah.
And so just adding that to that, I feel like that's important, while also knowing there's probably a major value to deep friendships as well.
Well, I think one of the things that I really loved about your conversation with your brother was his conversation on the funnels and the upside down funnels and the right side up funnels and all of that, because I think at every level of that funnel, there's friends. But how deep that funnel goes or wherever that is, I think that kind of describes what that friend looks like and what that friendship looks like for you in your life, right?
I kind of like that you're bringing that up now, because it's making me think of me versus my brother here, where my brother would be like, you just like go somewhere and see people and you don't become deep friends with them.
Right.
But when you were talking, I was like, no, I need to be able to scoop something in here that feels like there's less stress on me because I can just see them on Tuesdays or something. and that speaks very much to me and his difference in all of this.
Well, I think too, it goes back to the different people, different needs for friends too. You know, I think that your brother, and again, I don't want to speak for him in any way. I know you're listening. The need for his friendships or what friendships is like for him is different from myself, right? And again, I don't know that for sure. I'm going to assume that based on everything I know and have heard from your brother, you know, my need for friendship is different, right? It's that fewer, closer type of a conversation versus a little bit more of that broader sense, right? And my wife and I were talking the other day, and she said to me, she's like, you're so weird sometimes, you know, when you like go and meet people. What are you talking about? She's like, well, like when you go out places, like you just have this like resting asshole face, and like you're not approachable, and like where you should meet people at like, you know, a school event or something, you're just not approachable. Well, if you go to the airport and you don't know anybody, but you're willing to talk to the guy in the security line, and I'm like, sure, like I'm friendly, but is that a friendship? Right? I think those are
right. If the stakes are low, I'll smile at anyone.
Exactly.
But if I'm going to see you over and over, I don't want you to think you can always come talk
exactly,
to me.
right? You gotta work on this.
I love that. I love thinking about that.
So yeah, I want to do some trends though, some stats here, because I think we're kind of getting into like the differences in friendships. And so there was, in the article that you referenced before, there was 2 good stats. And so one of them was from a Gallup poll that was done in 23 and 24. And I'm just going to read the stat here so I don't get it wrong. But it said that in 2023 and 2024 in the poll, 25% of men aged 15 to 34, we're not in that bracket anymore.
We weren't even there then. We're close.
25% of men aged 15 to 34 experienced loneliness, quote, during the day yesterday. And again, I think it's an interesting way to say that, but they remember feeling lonely. I think that's the important part of that. And they said that was versus 18% of women. So maybe not a drastic difference, but I think still a recognizable difference there. And then another poll that was done a little bit earlier, 2021. And I thought this was really interesting because it talked about the differences over time. But it said that in 2021, 27% of men said that they had 6 or more what they would consider close friends. And they compared that to 1990, right? So 30 odd years before that, where it said 55% of men had 6 or more friends.
Okay, so it went from, in 30 years, it went from more than half of men to about a quarter of men.
Yeah, would consider 6 or more close friendships.
Yeah. Okay. That one's interesting, right? There's the men versus women one that feels like it makes some sense. Women approach friendships a little bit differently than men. Obviously, this is what we're talking about a little bit here right now. But then that other one feels really important as well, because it's saying we used to be better at this.
Yeah.
We used to value it more. Maybe better and worse isn't fair, but we used to value this more and maybe be better at it.
Yeah.
And now it's not something that is at least taking up enough space in our priorities that it is happening as much. 1 in 4 men has 6 or more close friends versus 1 in 2.
Right.
That's
So I want to
different.
posit something here. And I don't know, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but I'm curious what your thoughts are. So one of the things that we've seen in society, and the statistics would also support this, is that men of our age, and maybe a little bit younger than us, are more involved in parenting than they were historically. Is this simply a shift in priorities that we're seeing and a prioritization of family over? And again, I'm not saying one is better or worse. I'm trying to maybe rationalize what the hell's going on.
What
Right? What's changing?
What I think is very interesting about this is just the raw material of the argument. Like, this is bad because men aren't having as many relationships; they're more lonely. But one thing it sounds like you're saying is maybe this is a side effect of a shift where it used to be easier to have 6 or more close friends because the dynamic in heterosexual relationships was very different.
Yep.
And the dynamic as a father versus a mother was very different.
Right.
And it used to be more likely that men would go out and do things together without their wife or without their family, where now maybe not as much.
Yeah. And again, I have no idea. There's only
like that.
24 hours in a day. And if you're putting 22 of those hours into your whatever, right?
Right. Yet, somewhat significant amount less women say that they feel lonely than men, which also speaks to they're still more proficient at doing this and maybe more used to having to do this while being a partner and a parent, a good partner and a good parent.
I don't know. There's some interesting dynamics that are interesting trends that are happening. And I'm curious as to maybe why some of that is. Just I'm a question asker. So I'm trying to understand, like, if I hypothesize why it is, I think it's probably a mix for me of, are the dynamics of relationships changing? Are the dynamics of the family unit, right? This historical family unit changing? But then also, are we as men changing? And I would say probably, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I want to talk more about this when we talk about activities men do and don't get into. But I think you're coming to this idea of there's got to be a reason to this, and a reason and a good excuse aren't the same thing, but definitely something to be thinking more about because it is happening, right? In the article, the one other anecdote that was shown was that men feel less belonging and less connection than women in communities and those kind of things. And so it's just definitely something that is taking more and more of a major effect on, I think, our society as a whole. And so good thing that we're
and I wonder what it means for society for men to have those feelings of, whether it's loneliness, disconnect, what have you. What ends up happening there, right? I think because there's absolutely there's a cause and effect, right? What the cause is, I think, is probably what we're still noodling on. The effect is men feel X, Y, and Z, but then there's also that cause and effect of men feel X, Y, and Z. What's the effect of that? Right? Like, what's happening, whether it's our mental health, whether it's our physical health, whether it's our ability to show up at work, our ability to show up in the home, what have you.
I think one broader thing that I would say is happening is that society is actually starting to focus on this more. Where the way that our society was the way that maybe human nature was for a very long period of time, it was crucial that society focused on women being able to have as many rights, be able to be seen in more positive ways, be able to take on bigger roles in society. And I do still think that there are ways that there hasn't fully been created equality in that. But in some ways, I think society has done a really, really good job in getting them there. And now that's why we are talking about this, why this article is talking about this, why so many people are talking. They're actually now saying, oh, maybe now we have to focus back in, right? There's some side effects possibly of that we have to be able to look at so that we can create an interaction in how we're focusing on men and women that helps both of them. And so that wasn't like specifically what is happening, but I think in a broader term, what we're doing right now is something that's happening.
I love it. So why don't we move into our next section on societal views and male friendships? I think it's kind of
Let's
what
do
we're
it.
starting to get into here a little bit. So let's do it.
Yeah. And so one of the other things in this article, they talked about a documentary where a guy was thinking about his friendships, realizing he didn't have a lot of close friendships, and went out and interviewed lots of people. And so I think we could talk a little bit about that. But one thing that was also mentioned in the article was a line by John Mulaney, the comedian, where he said, he's talking about children. If you think your dad has friends, you're wrong. If your dad has friends, it's because your mom has friends and they have husbands. And I think that's funny. Sometimes things are funny because they're true. And
also
this
sad.
is one of the reasons that I do think that's funny, because we are friends before we met our wives. So
We flipped that script. Absolutely.
I do have some friends from college and from camp and all of that. But the people who I spend the most time with and the people who I meet these days and become friends with are largely, if not only, because my wife has her friends and we go do things as families, and their husbands are cool to hang out with. And so it's, he's got something going there.
I don't disagree with it. I think it's absolutely accurate. And I think part of it goes back for me to like, all right, well, if I'm going to have X amount of hours to spend during the day, I want to spend a significant portion of that with my family.
But if my wife is making plans for us,
then there you go. Exactly. Right. And oh, look, there's another person of the same gender. I'm going to go and hang out with him, and maybe we'll have some things that are in common, right? Maybe we can talk about whatever it is that would bring us together, and we can be friends. I would say it's interesting to me how many of those friends maybe become deep, close friends. And I think it's probably, there's no one answer. There's no rule to this, right?
I know for me, the answer is far less than the total number. Like, we're hanging out with people who my wife has become close friends with. I don't become close friends with all of the husbands, but a few. I guess it lowers the pool, right? Like, our wives, at least in this situation, and those who this feels true for, our wives are grabbing from a large pool of people, and then we're only grabbing from the pool of the ones who have husbands that they hang out with. And
I wonder too if, like, does it lower the bar of friendship? Like, all right, well, like, maybe I wouldn't have hung out with you if my wife didn't introduce me to you and your significant other. And I think the other place too that men are making friends now is, again, I think as we continue to get more involved in our children's lives from a comparative historical perspective, I know I've taken my daughters on play dates absent of my wife, and you kind of forced to hang out with whatever parent is there on the other side of that play date, right? Or you take them to the playground, and I've made a couple of friendly conversations, I think is the way I'll put it there.
Airport conversations.
There you go, with the guy who's also pushing his daughter in the swing, right? And we're very much in the same place of, we're the dads here, and we are loving the time we're spending with our kids, and also let's have a conversation about something maybe we're interested in. Oh, you're also wearing a Miami Dolphins sweatshirt. I'm sorry for you as well. I kind of feel that. But yeah, I think there's part of it, there.
What you're bringing up something that I like here too, because you're saying maybe this is someone I wouldn't have ended up becoming friends with, and we're going to become friends because our wives are friends and our kids are friends now. But I think there's an idea, I don't know how full it is in my head yet, but of like open-mindedness.
Yeah.
If I'm going to pick my friends, there's likely a bias that I have internally that's making me move toward someone and maybe away from someone. And in this situation, maybe it's not someone I would have moved toward, but because there we are in their backyard right now. Now,
circumstantial friendships, right?
We're more open, and we're maybe asking more questions, and like, we overrode our biases here, because we did find, obviously, just about anyone could have something in common with you and be a good hang, even if you don't have things in common. And I like that it opens that up a little.
How do you feel about the statement that it gets harder to make friends as you get older?
Is it harder to make friends the older you get? I think something true about that is that there's less have-tos. The younger you are, the more kids you have in your class, and the more after-school activities you go to. And then when you get older, you kind of pick your friends in high school. And then when you get older, you find your organization in college. And then when you get older, you just hang out with the people you work with, basically. And then maybe one other community
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. So I do think it gets harder. Again, that idea of like the pool gets smaller and smaller and
Exactly.
smaller.
Yeah, I think I agree. And I think you have competing priorities, right? You know,
Mm.
when you're in grade school, when you're at summer camp, your priority is I'm gonna have fun and make friends. Period. End of statement, right?
Yeah.
And I think as you get older, those priorities shift, they change, and they start to compete with each other, you know? And right now, if you say to me like, hey, I'm gonna go to a friend mixer, a young dad's mixer,
Yeah.
or you don't want to go hang out with your kids. Like, I don't know that I'm going to go and meet a bunch of new guys and be vulnerable
yeah.
in public, right? Like, I'm going to go and hang out with my kids and have a lot of fun there. As I look back, it's like, no, there's like forced hangout time when you're in school and forced hangout time at camp. There is still forced hangout time when you're an adult. When I go to a work trip, that's forced hangout time with people that,
Right.
but again, I
But
don't
your
think it's the same.
mindset is different. It sounds like you're
Exactly.
saying when you're in school, you're like, yeah, these are the people I'm going to be friends with. Why not?
Right.
And now you're saying there are times where I might have forced hangout where a part of me says,
Well,
better not.
and I think when you're young too, that need to develop a friendship is maybe based on a protective thing. You don't want to be the person who's alone. You don't want to be the person who doesn't have friends in
No.
school, or you don't want whatever that looks like. And I think that I don't know, that maybe drives it a little bit. So as we talk about the societal aspect of it, I guess where do you see male friendship portrayed in a positive light, or at least what we would maybe consider a positive light outside of Jackass? Other than
That's why I
Jackass.
laughed when thinking about Jackass.
Where are we seeing male friendships portrayed, and do we think they're positive or maybe detrimental to actual male friendships? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So I'm not sure this fully goes into friendship in
Yeah.
some circumstances, but when I think of sports,
Yeah.
these men are creating some pretty strong camaraderie, probably lots of them becoming friends.
Sure.
And that's something that I think is mostly positive. One thing also that I love, I imagine this happens a lot in all sports, but I think I see it most in basketball for some reason, is they will hate each other during the game
Mhm.
and then like chat after the game and
Yeah.
hang out, and you maybe even see it before the game
Yeah.
sometimes, where these guys are real, even when they're not on the same team. Some of these guys are really, really good friends.
Yeah.
And they also try and destroy each other for 2 to 3 hours at a time. And that's kind of cool.
I love the sports thing of it too. You know, one of the things, and we've talked about this, is obviously I'm a big football fan, but I'm a big football fan from like high school all the way to professional.
Yeah.
And what I think is always so fascinating to me is some of these guys that keep those friendships from high school. And so big Florida State fan, right? And high school football in Florida, like maybe second to Texas. That's where you get talent from. And so you have some of these guys that have played against each other starting at Pee Wees all the way up through high school, maybe played on the same high school team or not. And then all of a sudden you're like, I play for Florida State, I play for Miami.
Yeah.
We hate each other. But do you? Right. And I think
Other than those hugs before and after the game, we
Exactly.
hate each other.
And I think that, like you're saying again about the basketball aspect of it, I think that's just so powerful and so cool to me. We talked our last episode about podcasting on our podcast about the Kelsey brothers. And one of the things that I really respect from them too is, you know, they love the teams that they're on, right? Jason loved the Eagles, Travis loves the Chiefs, but they also love what they routinely call their brothers that play football outside of their teams, right? And how much they care for each other and their coaches that maybe they play against, and the moment they're done playing against them, they're back to being friends again. So I would agree. I think sports is I would say pretty positive portrayal of what male friendship can look like. You know, I see male friendship on television in different places that I think maybe can be challenging sometimes with some of like the banter, the back and forth. There's a show that I know that both of us watched and it hasn't aged well, but I'll bring it up, is Entourage. But Entourage was really the story of bromance. At the end of the day, like it's the story of male friendship. And so I think that again, I am not going to like vouch for everything that happened as a positive in Entourage, but these were 4, 5 guys that loved each other, lived with each other for maybe too long, but loved each other. And was that maybe a portrayal of male friendship that was atypical for the time and maybe is atypical today?
Yeah, I think more in media now, you'll see in shows larger female friend groups, and then more of the isolated or lonely man, or just smaller groups of men. And I think too, sometimes when you see the bigger groups of men, there's like something toxic about it
Sure.
that they're showing.
Yeah. I mean, my wife watches all those Bravo shows. I don't know, the housewives of wherever. It's not the house husbands of wherever. I mean,
It's the housewives and their husbands of
exactly.
something, and sometimes their husbands.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question because this is something that I didn't experience that, we have a very similar background for a lot of things. You were in a fraternity in
Yes.
college. Talk to me about fraternities and friendship, male friendship. I don't know. I didn't prepare you for this. I'm
No,
going to throw you.
I think this is a great
I
question.
want to hear a little bit about that because it's not an experience that I shared.
To be honest, one of the main reasons, and I had friends who were in the fraternity that I joined
Mhm.
who were older. I knew them before I got to school. I probably would have joined anyways.
Sure.
But one of the major reasons, one of the things I remember early on was how it felt really scary to make friends.
Yeah.
I went somewhere new. This is the first time I didn't live at home for a long period of time. I didn't know a lot of people from high school. And there I was in a dorm with some people only if I made my way to be around those people,
Yeah.
and I'm shy. And so for me, that was a really big motivator
Yeah.
to join the fraternity. It was because there were some people I knew, and it was built in these 150, 200 guys that
Mhm.
we can spend time together built in is going to make me feel a little bit safer there. So that's number one. But then also I guess I dove all the way into that and didn't make friends outside of the fraternity. I barely
Sure.
saw you
Sure. Good point.
until
Right.
grad school. Even though we had only 2 years
Right.
overlapping, but still, that it was just so easy.
Yeah.
And that felt safe for me, and that felt good for me. I also probably talked about this a bit on the podcast, but a lot of my friends from the fraternity have some very deep, real close friendships with a lot of people from the fraternity.
Mhm.
And I am just kind of friends with them
Sure.
because the way that I made friends wasn't in as deep of a way. And there's lots and lots of reasons for that. But that's something even looking at now that I envy. I joined a fraternity because it felt really important for me to have that safety.
Mhm.
They joined a fraternity and then they did it right. Like, that's what I think about, like, the way that they have these connections, these
Yeah.
lifelong, deep connections.
Did you ever live
They
in the
did it
fraternity
right.
house? I don't remember.
I did not.
Okay.
The year you're supposed to live in the fraternity, at least in ours,
Yeah.
sophomore year.
Okay.
So at the end of freshman year, they knocked down our house, and that didn't work out. So
I do
no, did
remember
not.
the new house they built was pretty
Yeah, it was
fantastic.
cool, but that was after my time, slightly after my time. I think I
Right.
got to see it in grad school,
Right.
but yeah, so no, I did not.
Sure.
But that was a cool thing in freshman year
Yeah.
too, where we would always go to the house,
Mhm.
and everyone would always be in each other's rooms and hanging out or in the dining hall, and
Mhm.
there's just so much camaraderie and
Yeah.
room to be friends, and you don't always have to sit at the same table with everyone at the same meals. And
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful thing of that. And again, one of those things where I think of some of my friends who did it so right.
Right.
And I do envy that and admire them for that as well.
Interesting. I like that. So maybe that kind of loops us into our next section, which is like, what are some things that men do?
Yeah. What are things men do? Okay. So this last section, we're going to talk about what are things men do? Are they things that detract from making friends? And are they things that add to making friends? Let's start with some things that we're talking about right now. So I think this was actually mentioned in the article as well, but the trend around going to college
Mhm.
is majorly shifting.
Big time.
It was more men, now it is more women, and I think going to college is probably one that
Yeah. Well, I
that
think you
you're
said it
around
best. Like,
people.
it's the first time I lived away from home. There's no longer a predominance of men that are going to college and doing that. What is that doing for their ability to make friends, right? And when we think about like going to college, it's 17, 18, 19 years old, somewhere in that 2.5 year span of
Mhm.
your age. We're not done growing. We're still children at that point,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
our brains are still developing, our fundamentals, our ideals, our ideas on manliness, on friendship, on all of these things, on who you are as a person. That's all still in development. And what is happening maybe to the men that aren't experiencing. And I'm not saying that college
Right,
is
but
the only
also
way to do that,
there's
right?
less
There's a lot of ways to,
built-ins,
there's a
right?
lot of
There's
things
less
to do that, right?
built-ins when you don't go to college, right?
Yeah.
There are other ways to make friends than
For
going
sure.
to college, but you're going to college with somewhere between 4 and 40,000 people versus starting a job possibly with
Right.
4 to 40 people.
Yeah.
And you could even join a community, which is still not going to be 4,000 to 40,000 people. And you don't have as much, I have to be here, I have to do this, or I have the opportunity to join a fraternity. I think we add that into what are one of the
Absolutely.
things that men do, join fraternities, that I think that can be very positive. There are some very clear negative influences you can get from
Absolutely
any group of men, including fraternities, but there are
I do know
major positives there
were
too.
some guys in my high school, and I know that a couple of them went and joined the military after high school.
A lot of built in there.
To make friends. I mean, a stated fact, right? Like, high school wasn't great for me. I want to do something different. I'm going to join the military. Right.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Appreciate their service. Appreciate all they did, but also like recognize that they were searching for a community that they didn't have. Right.
So that's an interesting one because that is giving them an opportunity to build community.
Mhm.
Also, possibly the back end of that gets a little bit complicated because then it's hard to maintain community. If you felt so connected to people and now you're out in the civilian world, a lot of people talk about that.
Oh, there's a
lot of them are awesome at gaining more friendships because they know how important it is, but some of them move toward that loneliness side.
There's a book I'm reading right now is a Marine Corps pilot, and he talks about that exact thing that you're talking about. He loved the Marines and maybe fell a little bit out of love with the Marine Corps as a whole and like what he was doing every day. But when he left, you know, as a pilot, when they get ready in a place called the ready room, he's like, I missed the ready room more than anything else. And he's like, I didn't miss the building, I missed the people. Right. And I think it goes exactly what you're saying of that community can be forced upon you very quickly when you join the military, but then all of a sudden it can be taken away,
That's
you know,
true.
and that can be hard. So other things.
What are other things that you can do when you finally move away from home and go to college, or things that you do when you're staying home and not going to college as well that maybe have their pros and cons?
I joined some rec sports. I wanted to make some friends. I joined some rec sports. It was, you know, good for your physical activity, your mental health.
Exercise in general, rec sports is one way to do that. Also, there's exercise classes, and even just going to the gym and working out on your own puts you in situations with other people who have at least one thing in common.
Absolutely.
They go to the gym at the same time as you.
Right.
And so I think that's a really good one. Another thing that I think often is more male is playing video games. Is a major activity that men take up.
And I think what's interesting
times
now with video games versus maybe when you and I were growing up, video games now are a community thing, right? Like there is the connection via the internet with people literally all over the world from a video game. Now, obviously, like I could go to your house and play Super Mario Brothers.
Right. I would argue with you that probably is more of something that detracts from friendships.
True friendships.
Then
I could see that.
Can help you because, first of all, there's lots of video games you can play where you don't build friendships and you're just in a dark room playing video games and they are addictive. So when your parents aren't saying, come down for dinner or go to school the next day, and you might just be in a dorm room or in an apartment after high school, whatever it is, you're partaking in something that can be addictive that doesn't bring you around other people. Also, if you are making a lot of friends in your headset, it may not motivate you as much to go make friends outside of the headset.
Interesting.
And you might not be motivated to go out of the house at all. You can work remotely these days. You can have friends remotely these days.
You can have your groceries delivered. That's a really interesting point. Really interesting point. Yeah. So, okay. Well, here's something that both you and I do.
Okay.
We play fantasy sports.
Hell yeah.
I play fantasy football.
Same.
It's all I
only do that.
It is all I have time for. I know there is lots of fantasy sports out there. I am not good at fantasy football. That being said,
you do have a trophy in your house right now.
I do have a trophy in my house right now. We'll have an episode on fantasy sports.
Soon.
I'll show everybody my trophy.
We'll do that soon.
But I mean, fantasy sports, I think, is something that people do to build friendships and you know, maintain friendships. I know that our fantasy football team is one that we have both been involved in for 10 years. I don't know how long we've been.
At least. I love that one though too, because I think one of the great things about fantasy sports is that you get to follow sports and do math. I don't know if everyone feels that way,
Love
but
math.
I do the math. And like feel like you're good at something and all of that.
You feel like you're good at it?
I do feel like I'm good at it. Let me keep that one. It's all in my head.
Hey, listen, just go ahead and draft the whole Bengals and get
the
this year.
results that happen at the end don't make me good at it, but I feel good at it. And picking on each other, that's what we talked about in the past, things men do. But I think the real reason I stay doing fantasy football, because sometimes it does take some work. And I started doing it before having a wife or kids or any of that, and I still do it now.
Yep.
It is because of our league.
Yeah.
I really love that we can have however surface or deep of a conversation and all of us can be in it at the same time at any time of the day. And it ramps up during the season.
Absolutely.
And that's exciting, but it's a connection that I get to have to campers of mine from the past. My brother, you, like so many people that I wouldn't have as easy of an avenue to be close to right now. And that's one of those things where you don't have, if you don't focus on the activity as much being the draw, you realize how important it truly can be.
No, I agree. I love it. I think I agree with everything you're saying. I would only add the other thing with fantasy too is it allows you to share in other aspects of things that are interesting. Yes, like fantasy football is interesting, but like I like fantasy football because I like regular football.
Yeah.
Like real football, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
Which I know you do as well, right? We go back to TV. We watch the show. I watched the show The League. I know you watched the show The League. But it's all about
that
friendship.
Was real friendship there.
Right, exactly.
That's exactly the point.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's cool. Any other things you want to kind of
so there
lightning round us here?
So there's one more I do actually want to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's what's the way to kind of catch everything in here, but engage in dopamine traps that society has built because of technology these days. So the thing I'm really talking about is other things that we do, which could be social media, could be online communities, could go back to online gaming, could be pornography, that these are things that men do that detract from the motivation to be around other people.
Yeah.
One of the ways that I love, we talked about him last time, Scott Galloway, in one of the some of the podcasts that I listened to. What he loves to talk about is how he benefited from going to college. I think he went to UCLA, a nice big college in California. And he said that one of the major reasons he was motivated to go to class was because maybe that would be a time to interact with and meet attractive women. And he says, if pornography was as available as it is now, I'm not sure I would have gone to class as much. I'm not sure I would have been out there. I'm not sure I would have been able to build friendships and get as involved in anything.
He was getting what he needed from that, like you said, that dopamine searching.
Yeah. There is such a strong source of less effective than like meeting actual people, but it's such a strong source of that he said, he's like, I'd probably just be addicted to pornography in my dorm room and would change everything. And I think that whether it's pornography or Instagram or games or anything, I feel like this is a very real part of where we get stuck right now, not interacting with other people as much, not building as deep of friendships, not being motivated to get out there as much because we have a facsimile of the positive that we would get from that by getting these dopamine hits that are actually pretty empty.
It's interesting. And it just makes me think, because I just watched it on an airplane recently, but the movie, The Social Network, about the development of Facebook. And I don't want to talk about the movie at all, but the name of what was trying to be accomplished in Facebook was a social network, getting people to socialize.
Yeah.
Did it almost have an opposite effect of that, where it sucked people into their computer, brought people away from socializing and having a one-on-one conversation with someone?
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. It's just something interesting.
Absolutely did. And ironically, they're coming up with a sequel to that. And
Are they really?
I don't remember the name of it, but it's something like just the negative side of that, because whatever the motivation was, when the motivation becomes keeping as many eyeballs as you possibly can, you give up on the major positives you can get, because if you stay on it for long enough that you're not in front of real people anymore, you see more ads, and that makes us money.
Well, technology today is feeding into that even more with our own algorithms. Our technology is showing us what we want to see more and more. We don't have to search for it. We don't have to look for it. It is just being thrown. Oh, you like airplanes? I'm going to show you every damn airplane that I can, right?
I know you have other things to do right now, but don't go do that.
Right.
Look, it's coming for you. More things. Oh,
exactly.
You missed time to connect with your partner or your kids. That's a bummer. But also, look at this over here. Keep going.
Shiny object. Shiny.
Yeah.
No, I really like that. That's really interesting. I appreciate that you brought that up, because we talk about COVID and what changed after COVID. One of the things that I think that we maybe don't talk about as much is decentralized working and working remotely.
Yeah.
I was one that I needed to be physically at my job for a lot of reasons, but maybe one of them was from that, like, I wanted to be with people thing during COVID, and did all the things to stay safe and kept everybody else safe. But also, I see now, are we losing the water cooler chats?
For sure.
We losing sitting with friends from different departments in the cafeteria at lunch?
Yeah. And maybe that's another reason why instead of 55%, 27% of men have 6 close friends or more, because 1 or 2 coming from work, it's kind of a deal, or 3 or 4 or 5 if you're there with each other every day eating lunch and at the water cooler. And so that's a great point. I like all of this. Interestingly enough, I'll bring up one more in our listener question. Today.
Perfect.
It works out perfectly there.
We've got a good progression. We had our friendship made at the pedicure. We had friendships on Jackass.
Yeah, everything is.
We do plan these a little bit. But it's all working out.
This is good, but I think an important conversation that we're engaging in, and one that'll likely continue to come up more and more.
Yeah.
Let's move into Ask a Regular Guy, Ask a Therapist. Like the gift that it was for this episode, one of our listeners is getting ready for football season to start, and said, this is often a time where me and my wife struggle because I really like to watch football, and she thinks I do it too much and it takes up too much time. And how do I navigate this in a maybe in a different way this year?
Yeah. So, I mean, I joke with my wife all the time that we get to the point, in the next couple of weeks, maybe a month, we're going to get to the point where there is football every day of the week, maybe except for Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right?
That I love that used to be the argument. Football, it's just Sundays
Sunday.
and Monday night.
Right.
And Saturday, because we really like college.
Yeah.
And the Thursday night game. And the college Friday night game. And sometimes there's a Tuesday. And Wednesday's on this holiday. And it's like, okay, fine. Never mind. It's always.
Every day football. So, I mean, great question. I know I lived this question, end of August through February is football. And I think one of the parts of the conversation for me with my wife is, one of the things my wife loves about me is my passion for things that I love. And that one of those things is football. And she recognizes that, she sees that, she knows that, and she embraces that. Does she love that if given the opportunity, we'll watch college football from the evening on Thursday through the evening of Saturday? Probably not.
And then wake up Sunday and start the NFL until Monday night is over.
And I think that I'm going to use the word compromise. I know it's not your favorite word.
I was already thinking it in my head that I don't like that word.
I'm going to use it. But at some level, either I'm going to be a loser because I'm not going to get to watch as much football, or my wife is going to lose and because she's not going to get to spend as much time together with us, And so I think it's all about conversations. I think it's a conversation about watching football, at least in the beginning of the season when my team is not terrible. It's that dopamine part, right? Like I'm getting that rush of adrenaline. You'll see in a couple of weeks, August 29th, like Florida State kicks off. I'll be standing in front of the screen. I'll be shaking in excitement and really excited, and hopefully stay excited.
In November, you'll be sulking on the couch.
Exactly. But I think that's part of it for some people. It's a physiological need for this. Where am I searching this out? Is where am I searching for that dopamine hit is going to be in football. I think you can absolutely have a conversation of like, well, all right, I recognize football is important to you. It's the high school game on Friday afternoon, one that's really that important, or maybe is that something that you can watch the highlights of? I think the other thing too is one of the things that my wife and I have done is we've found common things that both of us really enjoy with football, right? Is she a huge Florida State fan? No, but I've gotten her interested in a couple of players historically that she'll watch, right?
There you go. That's a bummer because every 4 years you have to find another one. Get excited.
But now with NIL, it's every year I got to find more players. But in the NFL, I'm not an Eagles fan. My wife grew up in Philadelphia. Her family are Eagles fans. Well, like I'll watch Eagles football if I can watch some football, even though it's maybe not the game that I would choose to
Right.
watch. So I think there's, where do you find some common ground? Is always something that I can go towards. I don't know, therapist this up.
Yeah. So I love that you caught me even when I hadn't said it out of my head yet. But yeah, I was thinking about this idea of some people would say it's important to compromise, where you, you said it all, but I don't like that because that means you lose a little bit and I lose a little bit. I also love the way that you and your wife talk about this. And I kind of want to use that as the frame in some way because it doesn't sound fully like compromise. It sounds more like an appreciation and acceptance. And it's knowing if something is important to you, then you partaking in that is important to me because you're important to me. I talk to a lot of couples over the years around what happens when we don't have so many common interests.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's very useful and easy when you have common interests, but sometimes people feel connected to each other even though they like different things. And I don't think that's a detriment as long as they're able to understand I like you a lot. And so the thing that is most important to me is to be with you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to go to the Renaissance Festival and I hate the Renaissance Festival, seeing your face there fills me up with joy, even though it's not my cup of tea. And if you want to watch football and I don't want to watch football, enjoying something with you, right? You can put on blinders and say, I hate football. This is horrible. This sucks, and sulk the whole time. You're not open to the experience. But there are fun things that can happen. You can say, let's go somewhere fun and do it. And you don't have to be paying attention to every second of the game.
Right.
But hopefully that's where this becomes not a compromise, but also something you're sharing together. I want to invite you to be a part of this and we can laugh. And I cannot be staring at the game the whole time either. I could be looking at you and I could be explaining what's happening, or we could be having conversation or being silly with the kids at the same time. We're circling around an activity with something that already matters to
it's
us.
A shared
it's
experience.
Our relationship and our family.
I like that. One of the things my wife and I do is the shared experience is every so often we'll try and have like a fun food thing, right?
Yeah.
Tailgate food, or we'll do football food, whatever the hell that means, right? But we'll share the experience that way.
And you plan for that food and you prepare that food together, and then you're sitting and eating and watching the game, but you're doing something that feels like it's for both of you. And I like that because there is no way around having differences in what you like.
I like the idea of like going somewhere, right? Because it's that aspect of like, well, my wife likes to go to a brewery or go to a winery or whatever. I like football. Well, hey, those things oftentimes can very much be combined, right?
Right. And maybe that's where it can be an issue. If you're like, I have to watch live the Friday, the Saturday, the Sunday, the Monday football, no matter what. And I'm also in 3 fantasy leagues. And so I have to be checking live the scores, even though there's nothing I can do once the game starts. I just have to be looking at it.
Right.
And I'm completely unreachable mentally or physically from the people I love. That I think that that's taking it to an extent where you're kind of sacrificing what you love about the people around you as well. And that's where it's both people. I accept you and I care about you. And so something that matters to you, I want to find a way to be with you. But I hope that even though you like this thing, you still like me enough that you want to stay engaged with me enough in that situation too. And so hopefully this is useful for our listener and for other people who are for sure going to struggle with this as football season goes along. It's, can you love something without having to give it everything and only it everything?
And I think it's seasons of life. I mean, you and I used to watch football from Thursday,
but that was connecting,
Monday.
Right?
Exactly.
It was you and me connecting as well, and so nothing detrimental there.
No, never. We didn't disconnect. But that's
a good point. In that season, the more football we watch, the more connecting we could be doing. Now, it could be the more football we watch, the less we connect. So you have to be careful. That's a great point.
I love that. Well, awesome. This is a fun episode. I appreciate it. Good talking about friendship with a friend, right? We did podcast on a podcast last week. We'll do friendship with friends this week. But no, again, like Alex said, if you have questions, please reach out to us. questions@manuptogetherpodcast.com, Instagram, Man Up Together Podcast, comment on YouTube, like, subscribe, share.
If you were at the nail salon with my wife, yesterday. I
Yesterday.
guess so. You'll be listening to this later and you learned about this podcast from my wife and you'd be interested to talk to us. Please reach out to us. We'd love to have a conversation with you. And if you want, we'll definitely invite you on this podcast. Also, thank you for listening all the way to the end if you're listening to
Big
this
time.
now.
Big time.
And everyone who's listening, thank you so much for listening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so we will look forward to seeing you next week when we continue to try and man up together.
The Man Up Together podcast was produced and edited by Alex Peskin and Bobby Jacobs. Special thank you to our wives, family, friends, and coworkers who have supported us in so many ways throughout this process. You can find us on Instagram at Man Up Together Podcast, and you can email us at questions@manuptogetherpodcast.com. If you are interested in joining us on this journey, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone you care about. Thank you for listening. See you next week.